Hi, this is Imran from decode.com. In our last lecture, we saw how to create forms. In this lecture, we are going to see how we can validate these values, because currently we can directly submit them, but that should not be the case. We should be able to validate them. For example, if I submit empty value, I can still do it. That's wrong. It should not happen. Plus, I can type different passwords and they are not validated, they will get submit. The password and repeat password should be same. So there are some things that are wrong, we need to fix them. So let's do that. So for validation, we need to create another method. In fact, in under all fields, because we need to validate all of them. Okay, it's called as validator, and similarly it takes some value and performs some operation, then in fact perform some checks, and then either it returns some error message in string form or it returns null. If it returns null, that means there is no error and value have passed the validation checks. If there are some errors, then it will return some string. So let's do that. If value.trim, trim will remove the spaces before and after the text, so it will ignore the space that I have just created here. Okay, so value.trim dot is, if it's empty, return email is required, otherwise return null. I can create another rule because the email should also be valid. Let me put this trim value here, val equal to, in fact I can use the same variable, value equal to value.trim. Now I can remove it here to not repeat it again and again. Value dot contains, if the email contains @ if it does not contain @, it's not a valid email address. Provide a valid email, that's it, not address. Let's keep it this way. Now let's test it. I think we need to rebuild it first. Let's rebuild it. So these rules are not yet triggered. Why? Because I am saving these values without validation rules. So I need to check it here. If I'm going to create is valid variable, is valid equal to formKey dot current state dot validate all of the fields. When this method will be called, all the validate functions in each of field will be called and will be validated. If any of the field will be wrong, form will not be submitted, because we will have a check if it's a valid or not. Is valid, if the form values are valid, then save them, otherwise don't proceed. Okay, let's just save it without rebuild. Let's do it. So it is already catching. Provide a valid email address. It should also check this empty thing. Email is required, so it is working correctly. Let's move on for other rules for password. I'm closing this console so it is more visible. I'm copying this validator for other fields. paste it here and paste it here as well. In this we need to change the message. Password is required. This rule is not applicable here. In fact, here we can save this value for this variable, so we can compare it with the value below it with the repeat password. Pass equal to value. You will know in a moment why this is important. I will show you. Okay, now we can say repeat password is required as well. We don't need this thing. In fact, we can change this to value not equal to passwords do not match. So now we are checking if these two passwords are same or not. So if they are not same, don't proceed, show the error message. Let's check it out. So required thing is working. Let's put different passwords. This is 3 characters, this is 5 characters. Sign up, passwords do not match. So now let me tell you why this saving this value here is important, because if we remove it and save it, let's rebuild it, and we come back here, this comparison will never be valid. Even if they are same, it will still say passwords do not match, because this value does not exist in this validation check here. Because as you know, until the value is not saved in the variable, and in this function we never saved it, and we have called this validate operation, but validate option does not save the values, and we need a value saved in a variable to make a proper comparison. So we need to save it here, otherwise the check will never be correct. So now the passwords here were same, but they were saying passwords do not match. Now let me save it and press this button again, and they are now matching. So that's why saving it here is important. So this covers our validation checks as well. So now let's pause these validation checks. Test 1 at test.com, sign up. So this time they went through. Let me confirm it here. So here are the values. Here it is coming again, and if I change it, it should not come. So it never came here. No third line displayed. I again remove it, and now the values are coming again. There should be another check inside password to compare the length, because short passwords should not be allowed. If value dot length is less than equal to 5, return password is too short. Okay, I am going to open the console again. Test 1 at test.com, 3 times A, 2 times A, it is working. 3 times A, 3 times A, passwords are matching, but password is too short. 4 5 times A, 4 5 times A, password still is too short, 6 times A, do not match, 6 times A, sign up. So here we go. So this is it. I hope you like my video. If you do so, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and do remember to press the bell icon so you can get notified for all my video content. Thank you. See you in my next video. Bye bye. Take care.